Today is the 500th day of the war. The invasion started on February 24th last year, and today's a grim day in many ways, given the toll of tragedy that has been wrought upon Ukraine. But also there are positives there. You know, the incredible spirit of the Ukrainian people remains unbroken. We've spent the last 10 days crisscrossing the country. It's a huge country, Ukraine, and we've been to all four corners, really, to speak to a huge number of people in many different situations, just to get an idea of how they've coped, how the war's affected them, and to see what their views are going forward. Alla she's an incredible woman. She's a 76-year-old grandmother who lives in a tiny village not far from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which has been occupied by the Russians for a long time now. And we met her while she was collecting her daily water supply. Her and her villagers and many others like her now have to collect supplies every day from a temporary tank that's been installed in her village, because her taps ran dry when the Russians bombed the dam recently. And she had an incredible spirit, and she was furious and was desperate to tell us how angry she was with Putin, that at her age, and given everything she's lived through, she now has to go and take a milk churn, a heavy metal milk churn on a tiny homemade trolley to this temporary tank in her village to fill up every day. And she took us back to her house and insisted on giving us a drink of goat's milk that she'd got that morning from her pet goat. And incredibly generous and accommodating, like all Ukrainians are. And she was keen to tell us how she is coping, but her main emotion was anger at Vladimir Putin for putting her and her fellow villagers and countrymen and women through this.
Щоб не нас президент молодець. Дівочку вибрали голову молоду. Молодець. Помагає і старим. І все, ось заводу проблему рішила. Так що ніякий Путін, ніякий Гітлер з Росії нас ніколи не побідить. Ніколи.
Ivan's got a fascinating job, if rather a grim one. He's a construction engineer, and his role is that he is in charge of the rebuilding of the latest apartment block to be hit in Kyiv. A fortnight ago, a cruise missile smashed into this 22-story apartment block. It completely obliterated 3 floors, effectively, taking out 3 entire apartments and devastated many others. Hundreds of people had to be evacuated from 125 apartments. 5 people sadly died, and Ivan's job is to rebuild this apartment. And he wanted to stress that they will rebuild. He was very much of an opinion that Putin can hit us again and again, but he'll never knock us down. We will always rebuild, and however tragic it is, we will keep going and we will rebuild. So it was fascinating to meet somebody whose job is very much forward-looking to every time some strike like this happens. And sadly, this still do keep happening. Just a few days ago, another civilian target was hit in Lviv in the west with another 5 fatalities. But he very much was of the opinion that they will keep rebuilding every time this happens. Katrina used to live right in the east in a town which is now occupied by Russia. So they had to relocate to Zaporizhzhia, and she thought that was going to be safe. But now, of course, Zaporizhzhia is again in the shadow of the occupied plant, where people are very worried about nuclear disaster kind of any day, really. But she's a mum of 3 young children. So as well as the bigger worry of what tragedy the war might bring to her doorstep, her day-to-day concern is just making life as normal as possible. She's got very young children, and she's desperate just for them to have as normal a life as possible. And we spoke to her as she was next to the fountain in the city centre, and her kids were just playing in the water, splashing each other like our kids would back home. And she was desperate for that to try and that trying to remain the norm for her children, however much it's difficult. The difficulty is against the backdrop of a war.
А як можна бути несильним? Звичайно, здаватися не можна, тому що ми віримо в перемогу, віримо в наших людей, в нашу країну. Ми бачимо, що вона сильна, бачимо, що кожного дня наш президент бореться за нас, наші хлопці борються, щоб ми спали спокійно. Навіть коли ночі бувають неспокійні, все одно вони роблять все заради нашого життя, щоб ми могли я могла вийти з дітьми на вулицю і відпочивати, дихати повітрям свіжим і насолоджуватись життям.
Sergei is based on right on the front line out in the east in an infantry unit, but he was having a few days break from the front line, and he was again we met him in Zaporizhzhia with his family. He was a man of few words, but he did want to stress the point that, you know, just like all of the civilians we speak to, he wanted to stress that the soldiers are no different. Their confidence remains sky high, and he just wanted to get the message across to Britain, to our readers and the wider world that they think they will win. Their confidence has not been knocked throughout these last 500 days. They're going to win, was his position.
Я впевнений, і думаю, всі військовослужбовці, всі громадяни України впевнені, що перемога буде за нами. Слава Україні! Героям слава!